If someone only keeps you around when you obey, that is not love, respect, or closeness. It is access, leverage, convenience, and control wearing the costume of connection. And the reason you feel confused is because control rarely arrives looking openly cruel. It usually sounds concerned, helpful, disappointed, wounded, loyal, or like someone who just wants closeness. But by the end of every conversation, you feel smaller, foggier, and weirdly responsible. That feeling matters because control often shows up first as pressure inside your own body. Maybe you leave calls replaying everything, wondering why a simple boundary turned into your apology. Maybe you explain for 15 minutes, then somehow end up defending what never needed defense. That is the trap. Control makes you work harder while they stay emotionally untouched. And if you have been doubting yourself, you are exactly who this message is for. Because once you can spot the pattern, their behavior stops feeling personal and starts feeling obvious. You stop chasing clarity from people who stay confusing on purpose because confusion benefits them. I know how disorienting this can be, especially when the person acts loving in public. They can sound generous, protective, even deeply invested, while quietly training you to stay manageable. And for a while you think the problem is your tone, timing, sensitivity, or expectations. But the real problem is that your freedom keeps interrupting their preferred version of you. So let's get painfully clear about the behaviors that expose control hiding inside connection. First, they only feel close to you when you are easy to direct. The moment you have your own schedule, opinion, limit, or plan, their mood shifts. Suddenly they are offended, distant, irritated, or acting like you have abandoned them somehow. That reaction tells you something important. They did not want closeness, they wanted compliance. A healthy person can handle your separate mind, even when your answer disappoints them. A controlling person treats your independence like betrayal because your independence removes their advantage. Think about the friend who loves you most when you are available instantly. But when you miss one call, they turn cold and call you changed. What they mean is not that you changed, it is that access changed. And when access changes, control-minded people suddenly rewrite history to make you feel guilty. Second, they punish boundaries by becoming confusing, dramatic, wounded, or weirdly offended. You say, "I'm not available tonight," and somehow that becomes a referendum on your character. Now you are selfish, distant, disrespectful, too sensitive, too rigid, or impossible to love. Notice what happened. Your limit was simple. Their reaction was the manipulation. This is why weak advice like "just explain better" usually fails with controlling people. They do not misunderstand your boundary. They resist it because it interrupts their entitlement. And the more you explain, the more material they get to twist against you. Sometimes the strongest sentence is simply, "That doesn't work for me," followed by silence. Not a speech, not a defense, just a limit, delivered without begging permission. Then comes the part most people underestimate. Do not rescue the silence afterward. Pause, keep your tone flat, and let their discomfort belong to them. Third, they ask questions that sound caring but function like information collection. They want details about your plans, finances, stress, relationships, or insecurities for a reason. Later, those details return as pressure points, subtle digs, or convenient stories about you. That coworker who always asks innocent questions might not be interested. They might be mapping. They smile in meetings, then privately mention what you said to the wrong person. They check how overwhelmed you are, then choose exactly when to dump more work. That family member asking personal questions after months of distance may not be reconnecting. They may be checking whether you are vulnerable enough to pull back in. You do not owe unlimited access just because someone uses a soft voice. Try this instead. "I'm keeping that private." Or, "I haven't decided yet." Short answers protect you better than beautifully explained ones around control-driven people. Fourth, they create emotional debt, then act shocked when you stop paying. Maybe they helped you once, listened once, gave something once, or stood by you publicly. Now that moment gets replayed forever, like a receipt you are supposed to honor. Every no becomes proof that you are ungrateful, selfish, or impossible to care about. This is one of the cleanest ways control hides inside fake generosity. They gave, but not freely. They gave to secure future access and influence. Healthy giving does not demand ownership over your time, loyalty, or emotional availability. Control-based giving always comes with invisible strings, and those strings tighten when you separate. So when someone says, "After all I've done for you," hear the translation. They are not describing kindness. They are billing you for previous access. And your answer does not need to be emotional. It can be clean. I appreciate that, and my answer is still no. That is enough. Fifth, they keep changing the emotional rules so you stay off balance. Yesterday, they wanted honesty. Today, your honesty is disrespect. Tomorrow, your silence is suspicious. Nothing lands because the standard keeps moving, and the movement is the point. If the rules stayed stable, you could relax, respond clearly, and trust your footing. But instability makes you easier to steer because you are always trying to catch up. This is common with controlling parents, unpredictable bosses, and passive-aggressive partners alike. One day, your boss praises initiative. Next week, the same initiative becomes you overstepping. One week, your mother says visit any time. Then she punishes you for choosing differently. The point is not resolution. The point is keeping you busy managing their reactions. When you see this, stop chasing the perfect explanation that will finally make them fair. Fairness is not hard for them to understand. It is hard for them to surrender. 6, they go cold the moment they lose influence, then call it needing space. Let's be precise here, because silence is not always manipulation. Sometimes silence is healthy. Healthy space is honest, respectful, and clear. Manipulative silence is punishment disguised as distance. One seeks regulation. The other seeks power by making you chase contact. You can feel the difference in your body almost immediately. One calms, one hooks. Suddenly you are checking your phone, rereading messages, and wondering what you did wrong. That reaction is exactly why manipulative silence works. It turns your nervous system into a leash. And when they come back, they expect relief instead of accountability from you. That is your cue to stop over-explaining and say, "We're not doing this." Or say, "I'm willing to talk when this is respectful," then leave it there. 7th, they rewrite your resistance as cruelty so they can stay the victim. The second you stop volunteering, stop rescuing, or stop absorbing their chaos, you become cold. You become selfish, difficult, arrogant, disloyal, dramatic, hard to reach, or suddenly too good. That smear is not random. It is image control after private control starts failing. If they cannot control your choices anymore, they try to control your reputation. This happens in families, workplaces, friendships, and breakups more than people admit. A fake friend says you think you're better now because you stopped sharing everything. A toxic boss says you are not a team player because you stopped answering midnight texts. A controlling relative says the family is worried because you finally keep some things private. What they are calling arrogance is often just self-respect they can no longer access. Here is what most people miss about control. It rarely needs shouting to be real. Sometimes it is soft, injured, subtle, disappointed, moral, reasonable, and socially believable. That is why you keep second-guessing yourself. The behavior sounds nicer than it feels. And that gap matters. Always trust the pattern more than the performance. If you consistently feel cornered, guilty, foggy, rushed, or responsible, something is being managed. Maybe it is your attention, your labor, your availability, your silence, or your loyalty. But healthy relationships do not require you to disappear in order to keep the peace. They also do not punish clarity like it is an act of violence. And this is where an important nuance matters, because not every difficult person is toxic. Some people are immature, avoidant, awkward, stressed, or defensive without being strategically controlling. Emotional immaturity can still hurt you, but calculated control has a different signature. The signature is repetition, entitlement, backlash, and the constant pressure to abandon yourself. Another nuance matters too. A boundary is not control, even when someone hates it. Control tells other people what they are allowed to do with their life. A boundary tells people what access you will or will not continue offering. That distinction changes everything, because controlling people love pretending your limit is the aggression. It is not aggression to stop answering after-hours word texts. It is self-respect. It is not cruelty to keep your private life private from invasive relatives. It is not disrespect to say, "I already answered that," and refuse the spiral. In fact, one of the strongest moves is saying less after you say no. Not because silence is magic, but because over-explaining feeds people who survive on openings. They hear your explanation as negotiation, weakness, and an invitation to keep pressing. So if you need a few steady phrases, borrow these and keep them simple. My answer is the same. I'm not discussing this, not this time. I'm available during work hours. I'm keeping that private. No today either. Those lines sound small, but they do something powerful. They remove emotional handles. And without handles, controlling people have to reveal themselves more quickly now. They either adjust, which is healthy, or escalate, which tells you everything. That is another difference worth remembering. Healthy people may dislike a boundary, but they can handle one. Toxic people treat boundaries like attacks because boundaries block access, convenience, leverage, or control. They are not reacting to your tone as much as they are reacting to lost reach. And once you understand that, their backlash stops sounding like truth and starts sounding strategic. Maybe not masterminded, maybe not always conscious, but still strategic in effect. That matters because some situations call for strategy more than emotional confrontation. If you share a workplace, parent, or custody situation with them, go steady. Say less, document more, repeat yourself less, and stop trying to win emotional court. Clarity is protection. Predictability is protection. Distance, when needed, is protection too. You do not need to prove someone is controlling before protecting your peace. You only need to notice the pattern, the cost, and how often you leave diminished. Because that is the deeper truth here. Control does not always want your pain. Sometimes it just wants your obedience, and your pain is treated like acceptable collateral. That is why you can love someone and still need stronger limits. That is why guilt after saying no does not mean your no was wrong. It may just mean you were breaking a pattern that depended on your compliance. And if they get angrier when you get clearer, hear that clearly too. Anger can mean loss of control. Guilt trips can mean loss of access. Silent treatment can mean punishment. Smear campaigns can mean image control after access ends. And when they say you changed, sometimes that means you stopped being easy to use. That is not something to mourn. That is something to protect carefully. You are not becoming cruel. You are becoming harder to confuse, rush, and manage. You are learning that peace does not come from pleasing controlling people. It comes from limits. And the people who truly care about you will not need your powerlessness to stay. So look at your life honestly and ask where explanation has replaced self-respect. Ask where guilt has been doing the job that truth should have done. Then pick one place, one person, one sentence, and hold the line. If this hits something real for you, say which behavior you recognize first. And if you want more language for dealing with people like this, stay close. Protecting your peace is not rude. It is how your life becomes yours again.